Okay, here we go. Okay.
Welcome to AV Geeks at the Hunt Library, not at the Hunt Library. I'm Jason Evans-Groth from NC State University Libraries, and this is our 15th semester of this series, partnering NC State folks with Raleigh's AV Geeks to discuss vintage, educational, and classroom films. As a reminder, Skip Elsheimer, founder of AV Geeks, is an NC State alum and for the last few decades has been collecting films made throughout the last century, mostly 16mm educational, training, and other sorts of what we call ephemeral films. He currently houses over 36,000 such films at the AV Geeks archive here in Raleigh and shares them as stock footage for films and exhibits, as research material, and during public events like this. As a reminder, we have over 200 of AV Geeks compilations available for checkout from the libraries, and you can also visit avgeeks.com or search for AV Geeks in YouTube or at archive.org. But as I said, I'm Jason, and in addition to being the digital media librarian for learning spaces and services at NC State, I'm also a reformed small engine enthusiast. The same year I began library school, I also became obsessed with vintage mopeds. Quick point, something we'll learn a little bit about today. A moped is typically a bike frame style bike with an engine that uses pedals to start the engine and also as your foot pedals, as opposed to a scooter, which doesn't typically have pedals and can sometimes even go faster. But we thought, as we celebrate Earth Day today, it might be fun and informative to consider the small engine. Is it environmentally friendly? Is it safe? These questions and more will be explored over the next hour. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Skip to get us started. Hello, Skip.
Hi, Jason. Wow, you spun that great. Like, I was afraid, like, how are we going to spin this in a way that kind of makes sense with Earth Day? Like, but you did it. Congratulations.
I've been thinking about engines for a long time.
Nice. So today we have a couple of different films from different sources, and most of them are going to deal with either lawnmowers or with scooters or mopeds. And so this first film is something from the Special Collections Library, and it was part of a TV show called Aspect, of which we've shown a couple of episodes, clips from episodes in the past. The one on rocket model making, the one on etiquette. So this was something that was made by NC State and distributed through the Agricultural Department of North Carolina, and was shown on different TV shows or TV stations across North Carolina. And so this one is basically about mower safety. So it's a short little segment about mower safety. Let's watch.
Aspect, the story of agricultural research and development in North Carolina, produced by the Agricultural Extension Service at North Carolina State College in Raleigh. Our host is Hal Reynolds, who has as his special guest today Mr. Howard Ellis, engineering specialist with the Extension Service.
I just realized this is the entire episode, and we're not going to dedicate 28 minutes to this. So let me skip ahead a little bit. Sorry about that.
Fortunately, Hal, some danger is constantly lurking. You know the clutch, and you can get away, stand up, and enter. First, always, this is important. I've owned and operated one. Hey there.
Yeah, I'm one of those many Americans who are presently owning and operating motor vehicles. Motor lawnmowers. I've owned and operated one for many years. They're very valuable pieces of machinery, save a lot of time and a lot of labor. However, as in the case of most of our modern machines, they are potentially dangerous. That's what I want to talk to you about. In operating one of these machines, you must remember there are a number of don'ts. Among those being that in starting this piece of machinery, you should never stand in back nor in the front. If you do, you're liable to find on your lawn a toe or even a foot, which moments before was a part of your anatomy. Now, if you want to be safe in operating this piece of machinery, you should put your foot on the side in this manner and spin the machine. And that way, there'll be no danger of losing a toe. Now, you should never leave this piece of machinery running. If you do, it might be that your neighbor's child will come over to this attractive nuisance and leave on your lawn a hand or a foot, leave with you a potential lawsuit and years of regret. Now, if your lawn happens to be uneven, you should mow it sideways and not up and down. That also is very dangerous because you have the chance of getting unbalanced and falling down, and if you do not get cut, you may get injured, as a neighbor of mine did on one occasion. He found himself unbalanced, fell down, broke his hip. It resulted in a hospital bill, many months in the hospital, and a permanently injured hip. Now, another thing you should not do is to operate this thing in a backward motion if it's possible to operate it in a forward motion. If you do that, you may find yourself also injured, as I did on one occasion. In a moment of carelessness and negligence, I pulled my mower upon my foot, which resulted in a hospital bill of some $200, put me in a cast for some 6 weeks, on crutches for some 5 or 6 weeks. Now, I don't know if you can see the scar on my foot, but maybe I can illustrate by showing you just what did happen. I cut about a third of my foot off, cut this bone here completely in two, and as I say, that was bad enough, but it could have been much worse because it could have cut my foot off completely. Now, I'm not telling you folks that you should never buy a lawnmower nor operate one. I'm simply saying that you should remember the many don'ts involved and be careful, and if you do, you'll be glad that you did. Thank you very much. You know, lawnmowers are, Howard, are really something dangerous.
I don't mean to laugh at the misfortune of others at all. I truly don't.
Yeah. Well,
I'm glad to have heard how many things I don't need to do mowing my lawn.
yes.
And if there was a chuckle coming out of me there, it was more of the surprised look and maybe the really extensively long mic cables those gentlemen were holding in that cornfield.
Yes. And so here's a technical thing somebody pointed out. So this was kind of crazy. So it was shot on film. So they did it locally. They did it like on location, shot it on film. Then when they did the show, they did it live. So they used what's called a film chain, which is an early version of a telecine, which is what I got behind me. So they broadcast that. So they had a live in studio thing. Then they went to the film chain and played that. Then they had a 16 millimeter camera hooked up to a monitor, and they recorded that as a kinescope. So it's like this crazy from film to video back to film, like immediately. So there's the AV Geeks part of the AV Geeks. I just geeked out a little bit. So
the lavalier mic that the gentleman performing the safety demonstration had on him was unlike anything I've seen. I'm wondering what's capturing the audio 50 feet away, right? Like, is it a reel-to-reel tape machine?
right.
I was worried he was going to start the lawnmower with that cord around him.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And that's the
All right.
final end of it.
So obviously, I have another film that was made by, I want to say either Iowa University or University of Iowa. I can't remember which one it was, but this one basically talks about how dangerous lawnmowers are. I mean, the fact that you had this this powerful engine with this rotating blades that could launch things, or you could accidentally reach underneath and you have serious problems. I mean, there was a need for this because a lot of people were getting hurt with this heavy equipment. So here's Charlie's mowing lesson for Charlie.
Poor Charlie. It's hot and his old mower gets harder to push by the minute. If he only had a power mower like Harry's, well, why not? Charlie is about to join the millions of Americans who every year turn to rotary power mowers to make the job of maintaining a lawn a little easier. Unfortunately, thousands of people every year turn the job of mowing a lawn into a very hazardous task. Now the job will be a pleasure. That is, if Charlie follows the simple rules of mower safety. That operator's manual contains useful information and hints on the right way to use that mower. Uh-oh, Charlie, that's not a good start. Good for you, Charlie. Keep your hands and feet away from the blade area when starting. Charlie, stop. You're about to run into trouble. That hanger can make your mower a lethal weapon. Inspect your lawn before you mow and remove any small objects which you might run over. And mowing near other people can be dangerous, so this would be a good time to move Mother. Hey, Charlie, don't leave that mower running unattended. Shut it off whenever you leave it, even when it is only for a few moments. Uh-oh. Watch yourself on that slope, Charlie. Don't mow up and down, mow back and forth. It's too easy to slip and get your foot caught in the blade when you mow up and down. Hey, Charlie. Charlie. Charlie, watch where you're going. Pay attention to your mowing. You might run into trouble. Better not, Charlie, tempting as it may be. Letting children or anyone inexperienced operate your mower is a bad practice. Hold it. One of the most common mower accidents is caused by a person reaching to clear a clogged mower while it's running. Stop your mower and disconnect the spark plug before cleaning or making adjustments of any type, and never pick up a mower while it's running. It doesn't pay to hurry when using a power mower. Well, just that little patch left. Charlie, pulling that mower toward you is just asking for trouble. If you slipped and caught your foot under the mower, well, here, let me show you. Go ahead, try it. Suppose your foot had been inside that shoe. Let me show you something else. Remember that clump of grass in the discharge chute? Go ahead, try to clear it with that stick. If it can do that to a stick, think what it could do to your fingers. Now take a look at what can happen when you run your mower over rocks or other debris. Better have some leg protection. Just a moment. There, now try it. Really shot it full of holes, Charlie, didn't it? You see, there are good reasons for obeying the rules of mower safety. The mowing is done, but your job is not. In order to be a safe, efficient machine, your mower needs regular maintenance, a point covered in the operator's manual you threw away. Hi there, Charlie. At it again, I see. I hope this time you and your mower can do the job as friends, not enemies. Oh, Charlie, your lawn looks pretty nice, too.
All right. I don't know about you, Jason, but my father was eager for me to learn how to mow the lawn. And
Mine was not, which is why I think I became so obsessed with small engines later.
really,
How early were you out doing that chore?
I gotta say, I was probably 11. I mean, we didn't have like a big mower and we didn't have a big lawn, so it was kind of easy to do that. But yeah, I remember when I was told how to do that. I mean, lawnmowers are so much safer now with the dead man switch that you have to hold and all this other stuff. But
Yeah, I actually watching this, it occurred to me that maybe my dad was doing me a favor.
yes,
Because our lawn was sloped. We had an old red Toro that you just turned on and it stayed on. And it's interesting to me, and I know we're going to watch some more, but like how similar those two movies we just watched are. Like essentially saying the same thing with two different, very different characters, very different Americans, but very similar Americans at the same time. But yeah, I wanted to mow lawns like crazy, and now I have no desire to do it at all. But we can, talk about that later.
So there's another film I had that I didn't pull, but it's basically made for young people, mostly boys, by Toro, on how to mow lawns for money.
Oh, wow.
And it actually introduces this idea where you take this course on how to do it and safety, then you qualify for some sort of loan program where they loan something, and I'm sure the parents underwrite it, but it was made in the 70s, and it was kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, a thought crossed my mind during that last movie for all sorts of reasons about how it's kind of crazy how dangerous, how all this, like the stuff in the house is so dangerous. You know, we're living in these extremely dangerous things. We've got these ovens that go to 500 degrees. We've got blades spinning at 200 RPMs, and yet everyone is expected to have one. And we do what Charlie did and just kind of throw the manual away. Funny to me that we aren't just forced, for so many reasons, for safety and then also environmental safety reasons, to just deal with a service. I realize we're in a democracy or whatever, but mostly a capitalist place that wants us to buy lawnmowers. Yes. But like that, a Toro course that teaches young people how to entrepreneurially eliminate the amount of lawnmowers in the neighborhood seems, or a certain amount of lawnmowers in the neighborhood seems safe and very capitalist in a kind of socialist way.
No, it's wonderful, and I don't know where it was shown. I got it. It was not from a school thing. I got it on eBay, but it was it was interesting to kind of see it. And somebody at Toro was like, "We got to hit this market, and you know, we can provide a niche, and we can also make the kids through the parents buy a new Toro mower." So these next series of commercials are Sunbeam ads, when Sunbeam wasn't a household internal appliance manufacturer, but they also made external things. And so this is for Sunbeam products for your lawn.
Observe a man who mows his lawn the easy way. Instead of doing this or this, he bought this. A new Sunbeam RE77 electric lawnmower. No starting problems. He just plugs in and mows. No gas cans, no fumes, no engine roar. Not even a problem with the cord. Because at the end of the yard, he just flips the handle over and starts back again. This Sunbeam electric mower is powerful enough to take on the thickest grass, and yet it's so light, he can even talk his wife into using it. Easy as running a vacuum cleaner, she says, even in narrow, crowded spots. All done? It stores flat on the wall, out of the way. Why not mow your lawn the easy way? Get a new Sunbeam RE77 electric lawnmower. A man who loves fine cars will appreciate the superior performance of a Sunbeam mower. He'll appreciate the instant cutting height adjustment, the easy way it starts, and its responsive controls. Raise the handle to make it self-propel. Lower it for smooth, maneuverable freewheeling. A man can't resist trying this Sunbeam mower himself. He's impressed by the governor-controlled sustained power that can't stall even in the thickest grass. He'll like the easy cleaning, too. Simply connect the hose to the exclusive underdeck minute wash and flush the housing clean in seconds. If you appreciate superior performance in cars or mowers, you'll appreciate this Sunbeam power mower, complete with grass bag.
Hi, I'm His Royal Spryness, the Sunbeam Rain King, with a sprinkler for every shape of lawn. Now this is the Sunbeam Rain King oscillating sprinkler with 45 individual settings. This Aqua Magic control is the secret because it gives you the widest choice of sprinkler settings to compensate for wind, dry spots, and overshooting. If your lawn is small and square, set it like this. Or if it's oblong, set it to water the whole area and never waste a drop. Its handsome styling makes it a thing of beauty to watch, and its complete control saves you water. Sunbeam also makes traveling and stationary rotating sprinklers. Whatever shape your lawn is, there's a Sunbeam Rain King sprinkler to fit it. Hi, I'm His Royal Spryness, the Sunbeam Rain King, with a sprinkler for every shape of lawn. Beep, beep. Here comes the Sunbeam Rain King traveling sprinkler. Just set a path and let her go, slowly watering all the way. Travels automatically, sprinkling up to 125 feet, even turns corners, and shuts itself off automatically. The Aqua Magic Dial lets you adjust your watering from 5 to 50 feet for even distribution of water, exactly where you want it. And you can also use it as a stationary sprinkler, timed to shut itself off automatically. Sunbeam also makes rotating and oscillating sprinklers. Whatever shape your lawn is, there's a Sunbeam Rain King sprinkler to fit it. And here's a big extra. All moving parts made of the new miracle material, tough, rust-proof Sunron. Guaranteed 5 years against corrosion, rust, and breakage. Hi, I'm His Royal Spryness, the Sunbeam Rain King, with a sprinkler for every shape of lawn. This is the famous Sunbeam Rain King rotating sprinkler, famous for even distribution of water. Set it to sprinkle a 5-foot circle in close areas, or up to 50 feet for the wide open spaces. Here's the secret, the Aqua Magic Dial that gives you complete control of the watering range. And as professional gardeners know, a rotating sprinkler gives the most even, thorough distribution of water. No dry spots, no over-soaking. Sunbeam also makes traveling and oscillating sprinklers. Whatever shape your lawn is, there's a Sunbeam Rain King sprinkler to fit it. And here's a big extra. All moving parts made of the new miracle material, tough, rust-proof Sunron. Guaranteed 5 years against corrosion, rust, and breakage.
It's easy to keep your lawn looking like this with a Sunbeam gardening team to do the work. Sunbeam's electric twin-blade mower starts at a flip of the switch. It's plenty powerful, yet so lightweight my wife can run it and put it away. This Sunbeam electric edger trimmer neatly manicures the toughest overhanging grass, then quickly adjusts to get at those tight problem spots. Hedges are easy to groom with Sunbeam's electric shrub and hedge trimmer, and its pruning saw keeps trees in shape. Thirsty lawns? The Sunbeam Rain King traveling sprinkler follows any course you set, goes around corners, up hills, even shuts itself off. Let Sunbeam go to work for you. They have equipment to suit any lawn and any budget.
Sunron,
Yeah.
which, by the way, is a high-impact thermoplastic material used in injection molded parts.
Sunron.
By the way, is a high-impact thermo.
Sorry.
No problem. Just to let you know, if you want to renew the trademark on Sunron, it was canceled back in 2004. So apparently Sunbeam is not using it because I don't think they've been making lawnmowers or lawn stuff for a very long time.
No, I don't even know if Sunbeam exists anymore in this country.
I don't know either.
Acquired by Black & Decker, but I could be wrong about that. It could be another household appliance thing. But so, that wasn't all just about mowers. There was definitely things about lawn sprinklers, including that brilliant moving lawn sprinkler system.
So awesome. Yeah, I think watching these three, it was really cool to watch those three different things that we watched in a row because it started with a very personal take on lawnmower safety, like a guy showing us his injury. And then the second repeated all those things, but in a really Madison Avenue way. We got Charlie, he's like going to the dealer, he's buying stuff, he's learning lawnmower safety. And then once the Sunbeam stuff comes around, we have cartoon characters, everything looks like a toy. I don't know if you noticed, but they did not follow the safety rules. They were pulling that lawnmower back at them. They lifted it up to show us the blades. Like, oh, yeah. We've gone full American, gone full Madison Avenue by that last one. You know, and, you know, there's a sense of machismo that exists through all three of them too. And it gets, Charlie, it demonstrates it a little, but then it gets really, it's really big there when even, you know, even the wife can hang it up for you. Yes. But those lawnmowers are cool. They were 29 pounds. Like super lightweight. There's lots of cool features on that, but they came with a 2-foot cord. So that extension cord they show, you'd have to buy that separately. And apparently they were only $10 cheaper than the nicest gas mower on the market at that point. So not a lot of incentive. Right. So they had to really go for the advertising.
I mean, I own 2 electric lawnmowers, and they're wonderful, man. I mean, I have one with an extension cord, and that's a big pain because you just have to plan how you're mowing and all that. But it is glorious not to stink of gas exhaust and smoke. So you had talked about the ecological, since Earth Day is coming up, like, you know, talking about just the very nature of having a lawn isn't the best ecological approach.
Yeah, you know, and these are engines that I know. Well, that early Toro engine, that was the first lawnmower we had, was a 2-stroke engine, meaning that it burned oil and gas at the same time. It didn't just lubricate the engine with oil; it burned it at the same time. So you'd see the blue smoke coming out of it. We were just looking up those stats that said a lawnmower produces 11 times the amount of air pollution as a newer car will. And that has held true, apparently, since they became a household commodity. So it's working really hard, it's running really fast, and it's burning a lot of fuel. And it becomes sort of an invisible pollutant because, well, you have to have a nice lawn. Like, what will your neighbors say? You know, like, you can ride public transportation and blah, blah, blah. But like, keeping your lawn up to snuff, you're given a couple options, right? You're given not doing that at all and letting it go to pasture, which would be awesome. You're given that push mower, which is hard. And like, if you're living in the suburbs, you're also paying your mortgage for that, you know? So like, do I really have the time to not work and then push this thing? Or you have these really, really sooty mowers. And I think the fact that people don't maintain them, like, they're worried about maintaining their cars. It's hard enough for us to maintain our cars. You know, like, the reason we get oil changes and spark plug changes and stuff is so that they don't leak oil and that they don't pollute as much. But like, how often are you taking your lawnmower to get serviced? If you don't care about the lawn, and if you really care about the lawn, you're probably mowing it so much that what you save in maintenance is creating the same amount of pollution. You know, and then as we were talking about too, like electric mowers, it depends on where your electricity is coming from. Probably you're doing a service by like using one less engine and powering it with probably a smaller amount of coal or whatever it is our electricity comes from. But you're definitely saving that immediate local air pollution, right? Like, even not having to smell it in the neighborhood is probably beneficial. It's just like kind of counting on how can we do small things to make a difference. Not mowing is the biggest thing we can do, you know? And if we are going to mow, using stuff that doesn't produce as much pollution, but it's crazy. I mean, they have carburetors, they're burning oil, they're burning gas, and they're exposed in ways that our cars, which are super safety regulated, are not. And, you know, when it comes down to it, who cares? You know, that's maybe the most disappointing thing is like, why do we want a nice lawn? Who's telling us? Like, if you like landscaping, that's awesome. But I mean, I don't think my dad loves landscaping. I think he was more worried about it not living up to Arnie, our neighbor, who was also my driver and instructor. Like, he had a really nice lawn, and my dad would talk about Arnie's lawn. And Arnie's lawn wasn't that nice, but Arnie was mowing constantly. It's like, so there's a whole lot of things here, but the safety aspect of it too. Like, these are really dangerous. Like, you know, like I can't, it's amazing how, when you put it in the perspectives we just watched, how dangerous these things are.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is I mean, I am very happy to figure out another way to not maintain a lawn. And I've hired people to figure it out, and I've planted clover, like low clover, which is brilliant, except during sometimes in the season, then it's all brown. But whatever I can do to not mow and not have to water so much. I mean, it's just a phenomenal waste of resources. And, you know, I don't have kids, so they don't roam around in the yard. So
Yeah, we don't have a dog, so we don't have to, I mean, but even if that were true, that's just more compost for that beautiful natural area in the front and back of our house.
Yes. All right. So we're going to take the engine, and we're going to take it off the lawn, and we're going to stick it on something that has 2 wheels. And we're going to watch the series of ads for Honda scooters.
Some don't believe in growing old. They own a Honda. Optional push-button starting. 3-speed transmission, automatic clutch, and a 4-stroke 50cc engine give get-up-and-go action with 225 miles to a gallon of gas. Dual cam-type brakes on both wheels mean real braking safety. A Honda's for the young at heart. Honda, world's biggest seller. What's greater than the great outdoors? The great outdoors plus a Honda. A Honda gets you where you want to go. The 4-stroke 55 cubic centimeter overhead valve engine gives zip and power. Yet at 45 miles per hour, it's like riding on silk. A Honda doesn't gulp gas, just sips it. 225 miles to a gallon. Honda, world's biggest seller.
Honda! 4-speed shift, synchro mesh 2. 2-cam brakes mean safety for you. Honda. On another motor's there, 255 miles per gallon, 135. Honda. Cost little to buy, almost nothing to run. These are the wheels made for your fun. Honda.
Honda, world's biggest seller.
Wow!
Hold it. Why not draw straws to see who gets the car tonight? But you know, for about the cost of one good used second car, you could get 2 brand new Hondas with 3-speed transmission, automatic clutch, and dual cam-type brakes. And a Honda gets up to 225 miles to a gallon of gas. Honda, world's biggest seller. Take 2 wheels, add a 50 cubic centimeter 4-stroke motor, enclosed drive chain, cam-type brakes, 3-speed transmission, automatic clutch, and top with the name Honda. Yield all the power you need. At 45 miles per hour, it's like riding on silk. Up to 225 miles to a gallon of gas. Honda, world's biggest seller.
It doesn't take a course in economics to figure out. A Honda makes good sense. Price, insurance, upkeep, all lower than you'd imagine. And 15 Honda models to choose from. And no service headaches. Your Honda dealer can handle any problem quickly and easily. Another thing, with a Honda, you can ride right up. Parks anywhere. And it's so easy on the budget, too. No wonder you meet the nicest people on a Honda. World's biggest seller.
People who own a Honda know how to enjoy life. Honda, world's biggest seller.
Honda, the ultimate in technical perfection. In the air, on the ground, these men value performance, quick response, plenty of power, plus low fuel consumption. And above all, they like their reliability. Hondas hold up. sleek as a jet. You can ride them anywhere. You meet the nicest people on a Honda. Honda, world's biggest seller. When there's a job to be done, the Honda Trail 90 meets the challenge. Whether it's on the ranch or on the farm, you'll find the Honda Trail 90 a big help. Takes you over all kinds of terrain. It's the ideal bike for hunters and fishermen, too. No wonder the Honda has become the most popular trail machine in the country. Honda, world's biggest seller. Okay, let's go. She knows there's only one way to make decisions like this. Go to your Honda dealer. He's got the answer. 15 different Honda models. 50, 200 miles to the gallon. And if you want to trade in for one of the big ones, 305cc. Of course, there's the matter of getting Dad to agree. But it doesn't take long once you ride a Honda. And you must admit, you meet the...
That's glorious.
So great.
So what's your personal connection to these ads?
I own a 1982 Honda C70 Passport. What we were looking at were the beautiful red and white ones, the 50cc ones. Those are the original Honda Cub, which I believe they were manufacturing those as early as 1962, I think. They stopped manufacturing them in like 2002, and then they just started again in 2020. But I own one. I bought one used that was in a barn fire. And so it was in a barn fire. Most of the plastic on it was burned away. That thing has never not started. This is that bike is the most purchased moving vehicle in the world ever, like versions of that bike, because you can't kill them. I don't know how many miles mine has, but like I rode it almost exclusively from 2012 to 2016 when we started a business in Raleigh, and I realized I couldn't put my life in that much danger anymore. That was the nicest of the scooters that I owned, because it's a real motorcycle. And I think there was always a lot of lore with it to me, because I would see them around and they're just beautiful looking. They look like the ultimate American dream of like being freedom on two wheels. I love the idea of a semi-automatic transmission, like anybody can drive it. But I'm a huge Beach Boys fan, and I learned early on that the song Little Honda was about that bike in particular. So I think from the time I was 10, I really wanted one. I wanted to go faster, up to 45 miles per hour and 225 miles per gallon, because it's all right. And it came on the heels of owning a bunch of two-stroke mopeds, which I know we're about to talk about in a minute, but like it felt more conscientious, like it felt safer, has bigger wheels. It's got a fuel injected engine. Even the 82 one has turn signals, push button start, like all that stuff. It seems like it's, it was made fun of a lot, I think, culturally back then. Like you have the little Honda was not as cool as a big old hog. And yet you could park anywhere. You weren't annoying people. You're like kind of quietly pulling up to the rock and roll show on the beach in your Honda Cub. I was surprised no one was wearing helmets in those, except for, I guess, the woman in the first ad had a hat on that may have stifled her from really destroying herself.
You mean the grandmother had a little bonnet?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I don't know, like two-wheeled vehicles, riding a bike felt like freedom as a kid. I didn't realize why, like it took getting on one of those in particular to make me understand why people go head over heels for it. It just feels, you feel, and this is not real, you feel bulletproof when you're riding like 50 miles per hour.
So when you say go head over heels, you're not talking about literally spilling.
Yeah, that's the problem. You don't realize you can do that because it feels so good until it happens. But economic 225 miles per gallon is not fake. I think my 70cc one, which I don't tell the cops, converted to 110 cc's, like it would get 160 miles per gallon. I put gas in it once every 4 weeks and just ride it to and from grad school and work, and park it at a bike rack at the end, and that's a big, parking brings us all together. Italy's awesome. Most people ride scooters because you can't drive anywhere. It's not very environmentally friendly still. Like while they're a little bit nicer, you're still burning a little bit of oil with all that, but you're definitely saving on it. Like if you have to have a motor vehicle, one of those is not the worst thing. And just recently, like Vespa has made like aftermarket electric engines for all of their models of Vespas that are still
Wow.
being supplied parts. And
Wow.
and that's been the dream for me, is like I hang on to these things because I keep thinking like an electric engine will show up and I could just drop it in. But since they just made a new gas powered one, I don't know if that'll actually happen.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, you are not only a proud owner, but you were emotionally invested in having that vehicle.
I am, and I'm also, but it has been, I mean, it still starts. It's been 5 years since I've ridden it outside of just starting it and seeing if it drives, because where we live in Raleigh, North Carolina, it's not a particularly two-wheeled vehicle friendly town.
No.
I don't know that I can't think of a town that probably is completely that. I'm sure there are plenty that are much more that way.
Tended to be, Portland, Oregon looked like it really was, people used bikes to get everywhere. And I was very surprised. But yeah.
We're just not used to, I don't know if it just at large, I actually, and we were talking about this before we started, I actually feel hated while I'm on one of those things. And I think it's, I don't know why, maybe we, like, but targeting people on scooters for whatever reason, you know, like I'll be quite honest about it. Like when I started riding these things, people just assumed I had a DUI. Like they just assumed that I couldn't drive a car anymore. It's like, no, I actually really want to do this, like the freedom and blah, blah, blah. And so there's this classism associated with it. Like you see somebody on a scooter, and whether, you know, and I don't know that that's happening in Raleigh, but I certainly felt targeted so many times while riding on streets. You know, in a bike like that, you can go more than the speed limit of most residential streets. So you're going easily 50 miles per hour if you have to. And I would still get passed in residential areas, in school zones. I got passed by a person in a school zone near the Village District because I was going 40, and she just passed me so violently, and then got to a stoplight. I pulled up next to her, not trying to be violent, and just asked like, hey, you really shouldn't do that to someone. Like that could have been really dangerous. She's like, well, I was late to work. It's like, I don't know that they would have done that to a car, but they see an opportunity with a two-wheeled vehicle to do it. And so there are these real safety issues. Yeah, as much as environmentally friendly as it might be if you have to have a motorized vehicle, to use a smaller one, you have to wonder, is it worth not being seen? Is it worth being targeted? You know, whether that's real or not, it can certainly feel that way when you're isolated and naked in a way that you aren't when you're in a moving metal box.
Right. And so with the e-bikes that are appearing, and we had a whole scourge of the scooters, the electric scooters that just kind of showed up and clogged with big problems, because this next film I have is about moped safety, but it's really it's 5 minutes and it's towards the end of the film, but it's really about, okay, you have this wonderful vehicle that you can go take anywhere. You can put on a sidewalk, you drive through a parking lot, but come on, don't do it. So this is the last part of moped safety. And this addresses some of the issues that came up when all these e-scooters appeared, when all these e-bikes that you can just rent appeared. And it is an issue with some people with scooters, definitely. So let's watch this.
In mopedaling, common sense and courtesy go hand in hand. Thoughtful riders signal all turns and lane changes well in advance to give motorists time to react. Being courteous helps ensure their own safety. At intersections, courteous riders are always willing to yield the right-of-way to larger, more powerful vehicles. It's just common sense to do so. Traveling in pairs, thoughtful riders never impede speedier traffic by riding side by side. If a frustrated motorist tries to squeeze by, the car may force the riders together in a most unromantic way. Experienced mopedalists avoid such entanglements by riding single file, keeping an adequate space cushion between themselves and other vehicles. A moped's speed is reduced considerably when climbing steep hills. So if traffic starts to back up, the courteous rider will pull off the road and let motorists pass unhindered. Of course, there are always a few thoughtless riders who seem bent on endangering both themselves and others. They're the ones who weave in and out of traffic, ride illegally on sidewalks, and take occasional shortcuts through the corner gas station.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
If such foolish riders survive to a ripe old age, it won't be because they haven't made enemies. Courteous mopedalists, on the other hand, always ride within the bounds of law and reason. They share the road willingly, showing respect for the rights of other motorists and pedestrians. Among the facts of life dealing with moped safety, none is more important than the maxim that says, always expect the unexpected. Riders who live by this rule try to anticipate safety problems before they occur. It begins with a pre-ride inspection to make sure the moped is in safe working order. Are the brake levers operating smoothly? Are all the cables connected? Are tires properly inflated and free of cuts or other damage? Chain tight enough? Is the throttle working smoothly? Are lights, switches, and horn all working? A pre-ride inspection may take a little time, but if it prevents an accident, it's time well spent. In traffic, riders who expect the unexpected practice a defensive attitude. They keep their eyes moving, scanning the road for potential hazards. They use the rear view mirror and frequent head checks to stay aware of traffic behind them. Defensive riders always assume a car door will open at the most inopportune time, so they're seldom surprised. And because a ball rolling into the street is often followed by an impetuous child, defensive riders will always be ready for a sudden stop. Even at a green light, defensive riders slow down and check traffic before proceeding. It should be obvious by now that learning to ride a moped safely is not really difficult. The beginner should keep these three basic facts of life in mind. First, become thoroughly familiar with the machine and its operation before riding in traffic. Second, use common sense and courtesy when riding. Make yourself visible, ride on less traveled streets as much as possible, and yield the right-of-way to larger vehicles. And third, always expect the unexpected. Be a defensive rider.
Oh my gosh, when did you get this?
Now.
I can't believe he actually bought one.
Yep, from now on, this is the way I get to work.
Can I try it out?
Well, you've got to know what you're doing.
It's all right. I taught her the facts of life. About moped safety, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
What a time to be alive when those were just things that you could go downtown and buy that
Yes.
looked like that.
Yes.
When I got my first one, it was partially because in Indiana, there was no regulation. Like, you could buy it and just immediately ride it. No insurance. You didn't need a license. Like, you didn't need a plate. Like, that, again, why the classist assumption that you might be dealing with some sort of legal reason, legal thing is there. But like, they're also all of those things that we just looked at. I think are those Centrons. Is that what we were looking at?
Centron, yeah.
Yeah. Endlessly modifiable. Like, and to bring it back to lawnmowers, me modifying, which was the first one, a 1981 Honda Express, which was a moped, but it was one without pedals. They'd been moving into scooter land, and it came with a custom Harley tank on it, which is really weird, with flames and stuff. I'll send you a picture. I learned how to fix engines because I needed to keep it running. And so like when the lawnmower broke, I could immediately fix the lawnmower. And it's also the moment where I was like, oh my God, these engines are so gross. Like there's no regulation. We're just burning stuff, going 38 miles per hour to work and back. But it's interesting how much that, not interesting at all. It's totally relevant that movie echoes what we learned in driver's ed. The ball, especially the ball with the impetuous child following it.
Yes. There's lots of children running after balls on streets. So I'm seeing more scooters because they're just cheaper to operate and don't have as many legal stipulations, at least in North Carolina. And I'm seeing more electric ones. In when I was in New York City last month, there were so many electric scooters. It was actually very hazardous because they would just you wouldn't hear them. Whereas, with a traditional gas powered, you could hear it. But this one, it was just so. I look to New York City as where we're eventually all going to be, because those inexpensive Chinese electric scooters are going to make their way down to flea markets down here and markets down here. So it's only a matter of time before that kind of takes over.
We were in Philadelphia last weekend and noticed the same thing. And actually, I was at a moped rally in 2012, which is a thing, like conferences for moped people in Louisville, Kentucky. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there were these informal sessions that usually just happened in people's garages where, and we talked about with the dawn of electric scooters, how will we make them loud enough for people to hear us? There's those bumper stickers that always talk about loud pipes save lives for motorcycles. It's true. If you can't be heard, you won't be gotten out of the way. People just won't know you're there. So one of the moped riders I think he just put a Bluetooth speaker on the back of his thing and just looped the sound of loud motorcycle engine constantly, just to keep people aware that he was there while getting the equivalent of 600 miles per gallon on his electric moped.
And we have that problem with, the Prius, I have like a 2007 Prius, and it doesn't make any sounds when it's just running the electric. And that's been a problem where we've been driving, like we were on the Blue Ridge Parkway and we were driving slowly, and we came up behind some people who were just walking in the middle of the road and they didn't know we were there. And so we're like, what are we going to do? We're like right behind them. Like, do we rev the engine or do we go beep? How do we tell them that we're coming? Whereas, if it was a regular car, they would have heard it. And the new vehicle that I have, or newish vehicle that I have, that's a hybrid, it makes a sound when it's an electric. It goes, woo. It sounds like a flying saucer. It's actually really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, it sounds like I'm driving the future. So yeah, that's something to think about. But the whole, and I'm sure that other big cities dealt with this, when all those scooters showed up, the actual little scooters that you could just rent with a cell phone. It was horrible. There was nobody knew how to use them, and nobody was considerate at all. So you'd be driving down the road and suddenly these like 3 scooters would whip out. Mostly because people didn't know how to do the brakes, but it was like, holy cow, and people got hurt. And then I think as a safety issue, the city said okay, if you're going to have these, you have to pay a certain fee if you're going to rent these out, and that will offset the what the police have to do to accommodate. And many of those disappeared. But what I liked about it was that they were ecological. Like they weren't like a little tiny motors running. Like they actually were these electric things, and people were able to get around with them, and people liked them. And, I think that we need some educational films about the e-scooters.
Yes.
But, and like we need educational films about driving and all these other things that nobody's watching nowadays, especially about courtesy. But I feel better about the idea that I can get something that just doesn't spew gas, gas fumes, and that it's not super loud, and I'm able to do some of the things that required a gas engine before.
Yeah, I mean, the democratization of movement with vehicles is excellent. I think access to movement for all people, if done appropriately, ecologically, and like with safety in mind, is awesome. Like but I couldn't believe the first time I rented like a bird scooter to ride to go get my car out of the shop, that I wasn't even forced to watch like a 3-minute video on my phone about how to run the thing. There were,
I'm sure on the app it probably said, "Be safe, be curious."
Yeah.
Be courteous.
Yeah, wear a helmet. It said wear a helmet.
Yeah.
There's no option. It's like, well, okay, I guess and I've seen people wipe out. And I'm not even though I am an educator, I don't, I also know people can read, but there needs to be something before you go out into 40-mile-per-hour traffic,
right?
Completely open to all injury. And unfortunately, people don't really know how injured you can get until you get injured on one of them. I had two serious moped accidents, both of which weren't even in traffic. And had I not been wearing a helmet on both I would have been done. I would have been gone. And they were like 10-mile-per-hour accidents. I can't imagine being on one of those things. So the promise of them, I think, is super cool, especially on Earth Day. Like I just got a text from Bird saying, save some gas today and rent a bird scooter. It's like, okay, we'll follow that up with a little bit of like how to be safe on them, so that like, we wanted to make this an alternative form of transportation. We could actually see what the benefits would be without hurting so many people.
Yes. Well, it's that time. Thank you so much for joining us, but also thank you so much for facilitating this. This is something that we've been doing this for how many years did we figure?
Well, 15 semesters. I don't know what that means. Is that 9 years now?
Yeah.
8 years? 8.5?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how but I want to do it again. So
yeah, well, and as you know, this is our last one of the semester. That doesn't mean we don't have summer coming up, but Skip, I promise, as a member of the AV Geeks at the library team, we will convene soon so we can figure out when we can bring these delightful shows to our audience again.
Nice.
Can I remind everybody to come and borrow some compilations through the libraries, and also to go see avgeeks.com/ look up AV Geeks on YouTube. Is that okay?
Yes.
So I'll do that right now. Check them out.
Actually, I'd rather you didn't. I'd rather you didn't say that.
Go to youtube.com, your favorite website, and look up AV Geeks. Go to archive.org, look up AV Geeks, and come to the libraries if you are an affiliate of some sort, and borrow hundreds of AV Geeks compilations on DVD.
Yes.
So thank you, Skip, for doing this for 15 semesters and for really making this something that we look forward to.
Nice. Yeah. And we'll be back. We'll be back maybe in the fall, maybe in the summer. I don't know. We'll see. And it might be something where we're going to do it at the Hunt Library. We'll see what the numbers mean. But yeah, I would look forward to doing that. Now, I don't know how we would broadcast it. I mean, we'll let Trevor figure that out. But yeah, I would love to do it. Bring the film strip projector back and do stuff live and all that stuff. So
yeah, maybe we'll fire up the mopeds and show them off next time. So let's see.
I'll show a film while I'm on the moped. It'd be great.
Oh, well, I didn't see anything. I didn't see that as a don't in the safety movie.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it didn't say don't.
Fine.
So it must be okay if I wear a helmet.
All
right. Yeah. Thanks so much, Jason. Thank you, Trevor. And everybody have a great weekend. Take care.